Day. Golden fried chicken with mashed potatoes from scratch, daily fresh vegetables, a full salad bar with all the fixins, and fresh homemade cobbler. In addition to the buffet, Top of the Hill also offers a full menu. Plus, kids eat for $5 all day. Top of the Hill is located in Ringgold on Remco Shops Lane and is open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday. Where are you going for lunch? Go to the Top.
The station you hear everywhere.
Cougar Radio 92.7.
Good morning. Y'all know what it is. I'm taking it from the streets to City Hall, to the main office. Can't leave out the police department. From the Valley Road to the mountaintop, give you guys a bird's eye view to what's going on here in the city of Chattanooga. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope as those who are listening and are on the way to work, who are on their way out and about, be careful because it is wet out here. Slow it down. Take your time. You can't get there if you're in a wreck or if you kill yourself getting there. If you're late, it's okay. It's okay. Take your time. All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week in this past weekend, that you had some time to relax, kick your feet up, get some things done at home, run those errands, take care of the children. And now you're up and about, back at it for another work week. And as always, I'm back at it, talking to you, whoever is listening, about not only what is going on in the city of Chattanooga, but also talking about real life issues, about how they impact people. And in particular, because today is Veterans Day, and I want to thank God for every single veteran that we have. I'm grateful for the posts that you guys are attentive to all throughout the world. Often we do not remember, or we may not think about, that we have people who have joined our military service branches, who are stationed all across this globe, who are often thousands and thousands of miles away from their loved ones, doing, as my dad would say, sometimes guarding some of the most simplest things like parking lots, buildings, but still doing it faithfully because their duty and is to protect each and every one of us. And so I'm grateful, and I'm super grateful because my father, the man that raised me, who is my father, the man that gave me life, are both veterans. So many of my uncles are veterans. I have aunts who are veterans. I have a family on several sides. My grandfathers were veterans. I am grateful that I have a family tree that is filled with veterans who have served their country, from the military, as far as from the armed forces, the Army, all the way to the Air Force. And I am proud that I have veterans in my family, both living and deceased. Today, and as always, let me not slip. I'm streaming live on Cougar Radio 92.7 FM page. Like the video, share the video, as well as my personal, if you have not done that already, as well as streaming live on YouTube. Call-in number is always the same if you want to chop it up with me, 800-8949. Y'all know what it is. Today, I'm talking to the men. And the ladies you can value from this conversation that I'm going to have. But I've been troubled, and the trouble spirit that I have of what's going on with men, not only in my community, but men in other communities, not only in the city of Chattanooga, but all across this nation. I'm troubled by men because I see so many men who are frustrated. I see men who have gone through things in life and they cannot express their pain. I see men who have been brutalized, who have been ostracized. I see men who have succumbed to toxic masculinity in their life, men raised without fathers, men desperately trying to find how to be a good man. And in particular, in the context that I come from, the African-American community, often there is not this tribal passageway that men can go through, the steps that would be required for a man to be a man. In most cultures, what you do see, and in particular, a lot of times for young ladies, is that there is this great transition that we are prepared for life long before we get to being grown, right? Grandma teaches us how to cook. Now, that depends on your age, but grandma teaches you how to cook, right? Auntie teaches you how to sew. You learn how to take care of other people's children because you're with them so much. There's this preparation, and often women have the ability, regardless of culture, to kind of go through this passageway to adult life, that when we get there, I'm not going to say all women, but a lot of us are quite prepared for what life has to bring. But often I see for men, there's not this transition. There's not this transition. And to even take it to a cultural context, there is an expectation for men to be machines and superheroes and to not be human beings. And so I wanted to dedicate this because when I see that violence is breaking out at the hands of young men in our inner city, I'm more concerned about them as a person than often people talk about what these young boys in the inner city are doing. But who asked the little boys who will grow up one day and be young men? Who asked the little boys what they're going through, what they have seen, what they have experienced? Who sits down and talks to the little boy and finds that the reason that he stole food is because he has none? The reason that he robbed somebody, I'm not saying that it's right, but the reason that he robbed somebody is because there's no lights on at home and no running water. The reason, and he's got to find a way at 12 years old to pay for his own school uniform. You see, nobody really talks to the little boy, but we ostracize the little boy once he gets in trouble. But do we understand how he gets there, or even how this translates into men who were once little boys, who then take often what they have never been able to express, and it comes out in some of the worst ways, whether that is brutalizing their male or female counterparts, whether that is abusing their children verbally, emotionally, spiritually, or even physically, whether that is working so much that you don't come home, whether that is locking up every ounce of what you feel on the inside because it's just not acceptable for you to be a human being. I wanted to talk about that today. And I really, really hope that you'll call 800-8949 and have a discussion with me and understand that when we talk about things such as this is a very safe space. I'm not judgmental. I'm not here to do anything but really understand, where are you coming from and what do you have to say? And do not be intimidated, because I do want to talk to you guys. So I want to start off with bell hooks. The confusion boys experience about their identity is heightened during adolescence. In many ways, the fact that today's boys often has a wider range of emotional expression in early childhood, but if forced to suppress emotional awareness, later on makes adolescence all the more stressful for boys. Tragically, were it not for the extreme violence that has erupted among teenage boys throughout our nation, the emotional life of boys would still be ignored. Although their therapists tell us that mass media images of male violence and domination teach boys that violence is alluring and satisfying, when individual boys are violent, especially when they murder randomly, pundits tend to behave as though it were a mystery why boys are so violent. To me, it is not a mystery why boys are violent. To me, it is not a mystery why boys who eventually, if they keep living, will one day become men, and they are not emotionally prepared to deal with life. And that is for a lot of reasons. In particular, in the culture that I come from, the African-American culture, it is unacceptable for boys to cry. You're a punk. You're sweet. You're feminine if you cry. It's not acceptable for you to talk about your feelings. What are those? Y'all know y'all seen the memes like about the shoes. What are those? Like feelings. What are those? You know, when I think about my father, who was the son of a man from the Bahamas, my grandfather's from the Bahamas, you know, and I hear my father, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing. I hear my father talk about my grandfather who took care of his 6 children and loved my grandmother until his kidneys failed him, and he died when my father was about 12 or 13. And my father spent a good majority of his life, the rest of his adolescent years, without a father. When he talks about my grandfather, one of the things that he has often said is, though his father took care of him, gave him everything that he needed, there was never one time in his life where his father verbalized in words that he loved him. I want you to stop and digest that for a moment, because I'm pretty sure if I talk to a lot of boys who get in trouble, there are many who don't even know their father. And because we're raised by imperfect people, and often because we don't talk about things like this, part of the reason why there is male violence in this world is because men are screaming to us for help, that they need love, a space to express without judgment. They need someone to listen to them. Love them with agape. Y'all know what that is? But the unfortunate fact is often tied to the love that is required. There are conditions, because part of us have bought into a societal understanding of what male should be. Male should have no fear. Man must provide. Man must work. Man must go above and beyond. But when does man get the chance to just be human? We have to stop and ask, what is going on here? What is happening with men today? The purpose of starting a conversation such as this is really to dig into the emotional lives of men and learning what we can do as community, what we could do as family members, what we could do as friends to ensure that we are supporting men in an emotional way. Relationships are essential to life, like oxygen, water, and food. When you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you see that the very foundational basics of what we need to survive are people. And so when you begin to discover that there are a lot of young men out here who do not have an abundance of relationships, that a lot of them are growing up, first of all, without a male counterpart that is older than them to really show them the way, but that for a lot of young men, they are missing valuable, healthy relationships that are essential for them being productive older males. And so let's look at statistics, because y'all know I got to back up what I'm saying with reality. Men are 4 times more likely than women to commit suicide. And the group at the highest risk, and this surprised me when I was preparing for the show. This surprised me. The group at the highest risk of suicide is white men over the age of 65. Their suicide rate is 8 times higher than women in that age bracket. Let me say that again. Men are 4 times more likely than women to commit suicide. And the group at the highest risk of suicide are our grandfathers. Men, white men over 65. Their suicide rate is 8 times higher than women in that age bracket. And the first question I asked myself when I was reading this was, why would Why would men get to 65? Why would they get to the age of being our grandfathers and feel like life is over for them? Well, if you've had to trudge through 65 years of not being a human being, and that's perpetuated by society, by the women folk. I got to get on women a little bit today, by the women folk, because we expect so much of men. And part of that is how we're socialized. And I'm not really blaming women for that, because that's part of how we're socialized in the society, is that we expect a lot of men. Oh, man. There are positive ways for men to be able to move forward, but we have to explore them. And then we have to survey the landscape of men's interior lives. One of the things that we have to understand is that the expectation of men can differ between culture. It's dependent upon social norms, right? Sometimes it can be different based on family. And so this is why it's not only important to talk about this as a community, but then we have to have these sub conversations about expectations that we have, that you may have as an auntie, as a grandma, as a mother, those sub expectations that you may have and cultural expectations that you may have, that's part of a subculture. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? So there's these overall umbrella conversations that we can have in general, but then there has to be these cultural conversations, right, that we need to have, and even family conversations about what we expect and how do we treat men in our family. What do we expect of them? 800-8949 if you want to call in and talk to me. When it comes to boys and men, we live in a culture that tends to not want them to be vulnerable. We seem to work hard to separate boys and men from their feelings. The message is being a man involves standing up to discomfort and pain. Giving in to internal distress or being emotional is perceived as weakness. Certainly, what it all boils down to is that it's just not manly. Psychiatrist and family therapist Frank Pittman has argued that our culture promotes a heroic male mystique, which to be attained requires the man to deny and reject their assumed weakness or vulnerability. And so what this psychiatrist has figured out is that one of the reasons why men don't get to be men is, you could blame Hollywood for a good portion of this, because we continue to see these, how many videos or movies have come out with men just being human beings. We got Superman, we got the Green Lantern, we've got Iron Man, we've got Hulk. Come on. So even just from, and our boys latch on to stuff like this. Batman. These depictions of people with these heroic superpowers. Rarely do they fail. Rarely do they lose. Rarely do they go through things that they just can't overcome. And that's not life. The reality is that life is a roller coaster. It's got its beautiful ups, but baby, it's got its valley lows. And if you think that you're going to make it through this thing called life, which has no handbook, which is different for all of us, you're going to make it without going through something, you need to hang it up right now. You're going to go through things in this life. That's a part of life. And if we're not preparing our boys emotionally to deal with what it is they're going to encounter in this life, they get to 65 and shoot themselves in the head because they've lived an entire life where they didn't get to be a person. He describes, Mr. Pittman, controlling men who must dominate and control their spouses, children, and environments in order to be what they understand to be man enough. Then we have competitive men who must compete with and come out on top of all of the other men to be man enough. And then we have philandering men who, to be man enough, they must conquer a number of women. And then we have partnering men who have learned to partner with their spouses their children, their coworkers, their community. They have learned to love genuinely, how to serve others, to stand up for justice, and to bless life. But for men to learn how to be partners, they require the active involvement and blessing of other men, especially older than them, to help model the way. Why did I have to talk about this? Because when I talk about, in particular, the context of life as I have experienced it as an African-American person, there is a missing community of men and boys who have no clue on what it's like to be a man from often positive, experienced, partnering men. We're going to continue to talk about it on the second half of the segment because I want our men to heal. I want our men to be able to lament. The word of God says we will mourn with those who mourn. And our men deserve, if you're going through something, you deserve to cry about it. You deserve to lament. You deserve to mourn. You deserve to express. You deserve to be a human being. We're going to continue to talk about it on the second half of the segment.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Police say a car on Lee Highway crashed after running a red light. The driver then jumped out and fled into the woods. Cops say they found an open bottle of vodka in the car along with an unconscious woman and a 3-year-old child. Police found Jonathan Potter in the woods, took him into custody. Potter has an extensive criminal record going back several years. On top of the drunk driving charges, he and the woman in the car are charged with child abuse. Workers were trapped on the roof of a burning factory off Amnicola Highway on Saturday. Chattanooga firefighters rushing to the scene found the workers had managed to escape the roof unharmed. The cause of the fire is ruled accidental. And as rain and cold have swept through the city, the Salvation Army opened its doors to the homeless. The cold weather shelter normally opens anytime the temps get below freezing. The Salvation Army is looking for volunteers and donations to help oversee the shelter. Belle St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
The kids are back in school, routine has returned, and we've shifted our thoughts to the fast approaching holiday season. Are you hosting? Want to spruce up before your guests arrive? Whether you want new color and exciting wallpaper or elegant window treatments, the designers at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating can help. With brands like York, Tebow, Graber, and Carroll, we know you'll find something you love. Stop by Chattanooga Paint and Decorating today. It's really more than just a paint store. On Hicks and Pike, across from Valvoline, or online at ChattanoogaPaint.com.
Gold, 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 and more gold. And always buy American. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamond, you'll always get better rates than the banks. We'll convert your silver, diamonds, cash into gold, gold, gold. Precious American gold. Certified by the federal government. Buy American. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. 499-9162. Call 499-9162. And visit Rick at 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. Gold, 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 and more gold.
For your small business, ending the year the right way can set you up for success come January. No need to let end-of-year panic set in. Easy Books and Taxes can help set up your books or new payroll service so that you can relax and enjoy the holiday season. With 35 years, bookkeeping, individual, and business tax preparation, it's easy. With Easy Books and Taxes, you run the business, we keep the books. Call us today at 423-755-0821.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet Way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Hi, this is Scott Schrader. Tune in Saturdays for We've Got You Covered. From finance to fixtures and all things in between, when it comes to your home, we'll help steer you in the right direction. We've Got You Covered, 10 to 12 every Saturday on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Areas of rain will continue to pour in from the south and west for your afternoon. Very wet and chilly, highs staying into the mid-40s. Tonight, another round of late showers and fog, lows lower 40s. For Tuesday, lots of clouds but drier highs into the mid and upper 40s. Continue dry and chilly Wednesday. What did Jesus mean when he commanded us to be ready? Find out in Looking Up, Living in Anticipation of Christ, a book by local author Eddie Turner, available now at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Pat Report.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
What's going on? Today's show is all about my beautiful men, for the ones who are doing right and even for the ones who are struggling. I'm not here to judge you, because in digging in and the desire for me to dig as far as what's going on with men, and thinking back to conversations that I've had with men in my life, whether I dated them, whether it was men in my family, even now seeing things that are going on with men in my family, I've seen how so many times, how a lot of what they struggle with right now is partially because of what they endured as children. You know, for me to hear my father verbalize that even though his father took care of him, he never expressed to him. And then the tragic part of it was that he died. He died when my father was a teenager. You know, this is why I can see and you know, all I can do I'm so transparent, and I hope my family, you know, I know sometimes my family hates me for that, but it's cool. I can only be real. You know, for a long time, it was difficult for my father to even sometimes hug his children. But part of that was because there wasn't this emotional male expression. Now, I understand part of it was because of Bahamian Caribbean culture, you know, and that's why I said not only do we need to have these conversations overall, we have to have these conversations in a cultural context as well as in a family context, because the expectations are often different by culture of men as well as even by family. And so when I think back that, you know, when we talk about cultural context, and I know that in the Caribbean, women and children are property. Women and children are property. I can understand, you know, but we have to have these talks. You know, I can't fault my grandmother for not having these discussions when my grandfather was alive. The time period wasn't the time period in the 60s and the 70s, even in America, women weren't really seen as equals. And, you know, sometimes as women, we complain about 2018, but let me tell you, 2018 women have come a long way. We can't complain like our grandmothers about not getting our due diligence, our respect, our opportunities. We're getting so much more. When I'm telling you that my grandmother, there was a lot of things that she just couldn't speak out and say that I know maybe she even had the heart to do. But because of the culture and the time, I can't even blame her too much for not speaking up about things going on in the family, because that just wasn't the culture. Women being vocal wasn't the culture when my father was born in 1964. It wasn't the culture. So right now, women, to my women folk, We have a beautiful opportunity right now because we can, if the men don't start these conversations, we can. Come on. To the mother who's listening, you know, you could pull your husband aside. You know, let's just say, Bob. Now, Bob, I didn't really like how you talked to Bob Jr. You know, what he was expressing was that Bob Jr. was trying to tell you that he was getting picked on. And I don't agree with you telling him he just needs to man up and accept the fact that people are just going to beat him up because he makes good grades. Why don't you talk to him and let him know that people may pick on you, but I'm here for you. That even when things happen to you, you can come and express how you feel, and daddy's not going to judge you. Okay. Let's talk about it. The missing community of men. When I talk about, in my context, that there is a missing community of men, a lot of that has to do with mass incarceration, which is one of the topics I've talked about on the show that I'm definitely going to dig into a lot more in the future. The results of mass incarceration in my community has resulted in a missing community of men, where there have been generations, sometimes 2 generations of men that have been locked up, and fathers who will birth sons who children my age where granddaddy was in jail and daddy was in jail. That's a very real thing in my context. Men are intensely hungry for the company of healthy men. They have to attach to other men because it is a relational need. In this way, they're not unique. It's the same thing as women. I believe the same need manifests itself for women, right? We desire to be in a group where we can just talk with other women because being a woman, that's a very unique experience. And even there's this desire to be sometimes with women in a cultural context, because then there is an even closer understanding of relational experience. Mark Twain once said that at the age of 12, a boy starts to imitate older men who pay attention to them. And then the boy simply continues to do so for the rest of his life. Let me say that again. Mark Twain said at the age of 12, a boy starts to imitate any older man who pays attention to him. And then he simply continues to do so often for the rest of his life. I agree. Often there are young boys, and the interesting thing is that at age 12, there isn't a young man who knows how to find the perfect people for him to be an example. He's just going to latch on to any man who comes along and gives him the time of day. And so if all that little boy ever sees are the dope dealers on the corner, and shoot, the dope dealer on the corner is the one who asked him, do you have lunch money? Why don't you have a coat? Do you have a coat? If the dope dealers are the ones who walk up to that little boy and put a 20 in his hand, come on. The little boy at 12 can't distinguish on who's really for me, who means me, who means me well, who's going to lead me into a life of trouble. All he knows is that there is nobody else that is a man that's for him. And that's what he wants. That's what he needs. And so little boys end up getting into trouble because they latch on to people who just give them attention. And a lot of times, it don't matter what context we're talking about. In a lot of instances, that's terrible. So what can we do about this? We have older white men who are making it to 65 committing suicide. We have young Hispanic and African American boys who do not have a father figure at home, or they do have a father figure, because there are plenty of boys who do have fathers, but their father is working so much to take care of family. What are some of the things that we could do? Let me give a charge to the women. The first thing that we could do is stop criticizing. And Lord, forgive me, because I am so guilty of this. I am guilty of this because these are things that I have picked up, things that I've learned because I didn't raise myself. Stop criticizing men. We got to stop that. We know that women cannot fight back in a physical sense. So what we do, we fight back with our mouth. For some of these boys, I'm telling you, I've heard women telling their children, you just like your daddy. And the daddy is terrible. The daddy's not there. What do you think that does to a little boy? It cuts him. Come on. We need to clean up how we talk to male counterparts. I'm being tough today. I got to be tough on the women today. We got to clean up how we talk to men. And then we can't put all men in the same category. There are so many good men out here. And then we have to understand a man's context. Come on. If you know your husband didn't have a father figure in his life, I want you to understand he's going to need your help becoming a better man. I'm just saying, if he didn't have a father in his life, there's so many lessons that he missed out on. And you're going to have to be patient with him. For the ones who didn't grow up without a father, look at the man who raised him. And sometimes what you'll look at and you'll find are men who are raised by patriarchal, misogynistic men. And that's not the heart of your husband or your boyfriend or your brother. That's not really their heart, but that's how they were raised. And that was the type of man that gave them attention. And so they're exhibiting habits that they never really should have, and even habits that they don't believe in. But who talks to them? Come on. We're going to talk about it. We have to. I'm surprised nobody has called me, 800-8949. If you really want to call and share how you feel about this, if you want to share your experience, you're more than welcome. 800-8949. But let's start with the church. When we talk about some of the biggest impacts that we can make. The large majority, in my experience, of men want to be real partners. They want to be good men to their spouses. They want to be good fathers. They want to be good employees. They want to be good community members. They do. They have a desire, but they just don't have the space. And for a lot of them, they just don't have access to information about how they can express. And so in today's world, there are very few opportunities for men to gather together and have real conversations about their emotional lives and their struggles to be healthy, life-affirming, life-giving men. What an opportunity for the church. And even if you're not a church, this is a great opportunity for a nonprofit. Churches can serve as a venue to have authentic conversations where men of all ages in safe ways can share their experiences of vulnerability and even shame. Consider just one practical suggestion, because I know a lot of evangelicals live in the state of Tennessee, and that we have, even in the city of Chattanooga, we have churches just about on every corner. This is why I wanted to put it out there for our churches to step up, because there are a lot of men in all sorts of churches. They go to church every Sunday, lift their hands and worship, but they're dying inside. Consider just one practical suggestion. As a man in your church, gather together a small group of men who may be open to exploring these themes. In a circle, invite each man to speak to the following questions. And this is coming from Shayla Mental Health Network, Restorative Practices. Which men have had the greatest impact on your life, positive or negative? How have they impacted you? What would you want to pass on to younger men or boys? And what would you not want to pass on? What is the hardest thing for you about being a man right now? What do you think are the main issues? And finally, what will be your next steps in moving forward towards positivity as a man? Women, what we can do is give our husbands, our boys, our nephews, our uncles, our brothers, our fathers, our grandfathers, the men in our life, our friends, no matter who they are, we can give them the space of saying, you know what? You can talk to me. And you can't make them, but offer. Whenever I noticed that you were upset about such and such and such, and I know that this is not a culturally acceptable thing for men to open up and express. But if you want to come talk to me about something, my door is always open for you. And what we share will stay between me, you, and the four walls in which we spoke in. Nobody's going to know what we talk about. And for some of us, we're going to have to prove that. Yeah, I'm talking tough today. For the men. Because you have a responsibility too. Help us help you. Tell your family members, tell your wife, your children what you need. For some of you, you are missing affirmations, positive affirmations. There's been nobody in your life that has affirmed you, that just loved you for being here, that there was no conditions. I don't love you because you got that promotion. I don't love you because you got me the toys that I wanted for Christmas. I don't love you just because the cabinet is full. I'm grateful for all of those things that you've done. I love you simply because you're dad. I love you simply because you're my husband. I love you simply because you're my brother. Come on. Come on now. I love you just for being here in this thing called life with me. What about you ensuring that there is time for you to be able to deal with yourself? That you can set aside time for just yourself. Maybe it's 30 minutes every day. When daddy goes into this room, or sweetheart, I just need 30 minutes. You give me 30 minutes, I'm all right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to me. I am so sorry people have been calling in. Go ahead, talk to me.
Yes.
Hello? Hello, you're on the air.
Yes. This is the radio.
Yes, it is.
Freeman Blackwell.
Okay.
I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
You might need a call back. I'm so sorry, caller. Give me a call back. We're wrapping down here. We only have 2 more minutes. 800-8949 if you want to call and talk to me. But man, take some time to yourself. Nobody can come disturb you. So whether that's you kicking up your feet and watching 30 minutes on Netflix, catching up on Bob's Burgers, watching highlights from the football game, smoking you a cigar. Come on. Having a fifth of whiskey, and I'm not encouraging drinking, but I'm just saying, right? Whether that is putting on your Beats headphones and just listening to some smooth jazz or some Lil Wayne, or some Garth Brooks, whatever floats your boat, makes you happy. Whether that's for some of you out there just writing. There are men who journal, writing whatever your daily experience was like. What? Talk to your children and tell your children that, daddy can't make it without a hug from you today. Like, I got to have a hug before you leave the household. I need that. It's okay. What about for my men, daily affirmations? Daily affirmations that you can read to yourself, daily affirmations that you can read to your boys. 800-8949. We only got a minute left. Daily affirmations. These are from my brother in the struggle, Anthony Wiley. I am beautiful and handsome. I am healthy. I am making better decisions regarding my diet and exercise. Just affirmations. All right, you got 50 seconds. Talk to me.
Okay. Today will be short, but we're gonna talk some more another day.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say about the idea of hero and fatherly figures.
Mm-hmm.
That the problem with what we call hero now is Marvel, DC comics. If we need to look at the real heroes, they were some of the ancient ones, and they did cry, and they did lose their way, and they did get lost, and they didn't come back. And that's that.
We will talk again.
I like your point about heroism and the way it's really sort of been imported.
Detrimental to our men.
Something that's not, that never was.
Thank you so much, callers, for calling in. We're going to talk about this some more. Don't worry, I got you. It's Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show, and y'all know what it is. If no one has taken the time today to tell you that they love you, I'm sending my love all over the airwaves. I love you. And it's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. Men cry, men feel. Men are people too.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Police say a car on Lee Highway crashed after running a red light. The driver then jumped out and fled into the woods. Cops say they found an open bottle of vodka in the car along with an unconscious woman and a 3-year-old child. Police found Jonathan Potter in the woods, took him into custody. Potter has an extensive criminal record going back several years. On top of the drunk driving charges, he and the woman in the car are charged with child abuse. Workers were trapped on the roof of a burning factory off Amnicola Highway on Saturday. Chattanooga firefighters rushing to the scene found the workers had managed to escape the roof unharmed. The cause of the fire is ruled accidental. And as rain and cold have swept through the city, the Salvation Army opened its doors to the homeless. The cold weather shelter normally opens anytime the temps get below freezing. The Salvation Army is looking for volunteers and donations to help oversee the shelter. Belle St. John for Nooga Radio News Talk.